Hi guys, and welcome back to another Daft in the Garden video with me, Sean. This week we're going to be looking at small spaces to grow. This is part of growing your own food within the cost of living crisis. Let's get on with it. Before we get stuck in and about it, we need to find out what kind of size of garden or area of space that you can grow in do you actually have. Do you have a driveway? Do you have a windowsill? Do you have an actual piece of ground that you can actually plant things in? What is it you can physically grow in? Even in the smallest of spaces you can grow. All depends if you can use your imagination to do it. What kind of places can we actually grow in? Well, if it's not possible for you to grow physically in the ground, well, at the back there, you can have yourself some raised beds or a square flower box. Now, with them, you can use every square inch of that. Take as much advantage of that as possible. You can put them on concrete, things like that. You don't need to grow right in the ground, and you're just building them. And in a previous video, you'll actually see how I built mine. Other ways for you to grow is vertically. As you can see, there's a few techniques in this in your eye line that you can use. First off, these vertically, they're hanging from the top and they're going to go down and up once they're sorted. If we go over to the far end of the screen, you'll see what's called pot stacking. That's where you get a large pot, you use that growing space, then you put a slightly bigger pot on top, use the surrounding space for that, and then so on and so forth until you get to the smallest pot that you want to put in there. So what else can you do? Well, let's take this vertical wall here. If I wanted to just use that area because I didn't have anywhere else to use, what I could use or what I could do is the same kind of concept as pot stacking, but you could use the same size of pots or containers. If you can, just use your imagination for a few minutes, because I don't have anything that is like a frame attached to a wall. But if you could see, as I've put in this shot, these hanging baskets or hanging areas, imagine they were attached to that wall, and then I attached the next one underneath it to the wall, and so on and so forth until your full wall or whatever space you have available is full with growing area. One thing I want you to consider though is, if you can't actually use the ground and you are growing from pots and containers, those nutrients in those pots and containers can get used up pretty fast. So we need to consider how can we make sure that we're putting those nutrients back into those containers so that we're getting still a consistent grow or a really good grow. So first things we need to do is we need to know what your type of growing is. Are you going to take the time to go and get yourself a worm bin and put your scraps in the worm bin and get those wigglers that they are to eat up those scraps and release those nutrients and yummy bits for the plants there? Or are you a composter, going to have a small pile or a composter in your house or wherever it would be? You don't need a worm bin, but you just have a composter and you're still using your scraps there. You could potentially go to your local farm or local stables if you have them nearby. I was very lucky when I was getting some of my fertilizer once upon a time that I had a cousin that has horses and she kind of helped me out there. Other things we can do is you can make your own bone meal. Dead easy to do. You just get chicken bones, boil it, make sure everything's off it, crunch them up to a fine powder as possible. Just be careful. You need to know your soils before you dive into these types of things. Or are you going to just go out and just go and invest in a high quality fertilizer from the shops? It all comes down to you and your preferences and what you prefer to do to bring nutrients back to your pots. So please consider what you're doing there first. This episode, guys, seems to be a lot about using your imagination, so I'm going to have to get you to use your imagination here again and pretend this is a large pipe. Now, we're going to be talking about hydroponic systems. The reason I need to get you to use your imaginations because I don't have one yet, but it is one of my dreams to try it out because I really want to try this out. And all you do is you get your pipe and you've got holes in your pipes at dedicated locations. You're not growing anything in soil or anything like that. You're using like pebbles and stones and or even baskets. A lot of them will just come in baskets, and basically all you're doing is you're getting a pump, okay, and with that pump you're going into a basin full of high nutrient water, okay. A lot of ones that I want to try out is the ones that actually have the fish attached to it. So you've got the fish for food, you've also got them producing the nutrients for your plants, and you're putting that through the actual pump. It goes through the hydroponic bay or the hydroponic system, comes out the top, and that water just drips over or around the plants as they're growing, and then it goes back to the original pot with less nutrients in it, and it just continuously circles that way. Using the benefit of actually having a vertical tower, so something like this, and you're growing all the way around of it, and I think that would be a great idea. However, it is extremely expensive. That's why I've not got it. That's my main drawback from it. It can be expensive, but if it's all about space for you, something like this where you're having use of an actual tower where you're actually feeding nutrients through a pipe and then feeding them through the tower, that might be an idea for yourself to use. Right guys, that's the end of this week's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. It's all about small spaces, things like that. So if these are the kind of things that you think you'll try out, give us a wee mention in the comments. What ones are you actually trying? What do you like? So I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Bye. Bye.